In today's rambly but informative video. In Scandinavian folklore, there's two very different types of ghosts. The first one that we all know and love is a spöke, ghost, spirit, and the other one, a draug, a revenant, a corpse ghost, yeah, all that. But what's the difference then? Let's get into it. Hi and welcome to this week's video here on my channel, Morbid History. If this is your first time here, my name is Pilvi, and once a week I upload either a creepy folklore video, some mythology, or a historic true crime case. So yeah, if that's your thing, remember to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell so you'll get notifications every time I post. And yeah, let's get straight on into this week's video, which is folklore. A sponsor, intermezzo. No. I just wanted to say that I have a Patreon where I post vlogs, lots of vlogs and BTS. I have a Ko-fi. I have some merch too that I just love. So yeah, go check that out if you want to support the tiny little morbid hermit. That's all. Bye again. So today we're gonna talk about two different kinds of ghosts. One is the usual, like the transparent spirit that we all know and love, and the other one many people already have heard of is the Draug. We're gonna go into both of them, but we're going to do it one by one. The first one we're gonna talk about is gengångare, spöken, which translates into spirit, specter, ghost. Yeah, they were usually not seen as dangerous at all. They would mostly show up as a warning to their loved ones that something would happen, someone in the family would get sick or even die. They could also show up seeking help because of their restless spirits not being able to move on for a reason or another. Of course, these kinds of ghosts, gengångare, did not have a physical body. That's the difference between the gengångare and the draug, or likspöke. Gengångare, ghosts, would appear as they did in life, but like transparent and looking very frail and pale. And not a very happy sight. What were you supposed to do then if they showed up? Well, you had to take some courage and actually ask the spirit what they needed. What could you do to help them move on and find the peace they so sorely needed? This would usually freak the family out, because even though the texts I've read and everything said that everyone knew that they weren't dangerous as such, you'd get scared, you know. If your dead loved one just showed up in a cloud of smoke crying about something, you'd get scared and run away. That's the human instinct of it all. But at the bottom of it, they weren't dangerous. That's, yeah, they weren't. So don't get scared. The negative part, after you've helped them with whatever they needed, would be that you would sometimes get extremely ill for a few days after meeting them. Because you can't just have a good time. There's gotta be a catch there somewhere. So the function with these stories back in the old folklorian days was to remind us, the people, that you should respect the dead and use the proper rituals and do everything by the book so that they would not return, hopefully. A few rituals that you could go through to be even more sure that the dead, dying person would not come back could be to be very, very, very quiet in the room where someone was dying, so that you wouldn't disturb the soul and make them like stuck in place. When they finally died, you had to close their eyes and carry them out through the door with their feet first. Somehow this would like confuse the dead, so that they wouldn't find their way back again in case they actually did return as a little specter gengångare thingamajig. And you should absolutely never, ever, ever, ever give them a coffin that's either too small or too big. Way too many stories from back in the day were about ghosts or gengångare coming back to nag about how their coffins being like way too tight or way too big for them.
So, yeah.
I'm just out here throwing all this very good information for you, like boop, boop. Please accept it and keep it safe. Now I'm gonna tell you a few just very short stories that involves the things that I've already told you. They are real folklore stories that's been written down from way back in the olden times. There was once a young girl who had a young and handsome fiancé. They were very, very, very much in love. Until one day, the young man sadly got ill and passed away. The young girl, of course, was distraught, like this was the love of her life and she couldn't move on. She just cried and cried for days on end. After the funeral, after everything, for months she was just still crying in her room. Suddenly, one day, her fiancé showed up as a vålnad, gengångare, a ghost. He sat her down on her bed and she wasn't scared, she was happy to see him. But he had a very solemn look on his face and told her that she had to stop crying and move on. He told her, and I'm gonna read it in Swedish. Gråt ej för mig, då fyll kistan min med blod. Which translates into, don't cry for me, because when you do, my coffin gets filled with blood. He explained that as long as she kept on crying and not moving on in any way, his soul couldn't find peace. And of course, this helped. She tried her best and she never saw him again. Another story is about a handsome young man who was very well known to have beautiful teeth. He was very young and died very young, still with his beautiful teeth in his mouth. These were the days of grave robbing. People really liked to rob the graves and get whatever they could that could produce some money. A few days after the young man's funeral, his father woke up in the middle of the night, and in the room he saw the ghostly specter of his young son, crying in agony, blood running through out of his mouth. And he was saying to his dad, please help me, they're taking my teeth. The father woke up the mother and the specter disappeared. The mother just said, oh, come on, you're just having a dream, go to bed. And the father complied and went to bed again. But after a while, he woke up again. This time, the son's specter looked ravished, and there was even more blood coming out of his mouth, and he was disformed in agony. And you could hardly hear him, Father, Father, please help, they're taking my teeth. But once again, the mother just said, relax, it's just a bad dream. And you can imagine, after a while, the dad woke up again. And this time, the son couldn't even talk. His jaw was hanging loose, and he looked completely terrible. Couldn't speak. By this time, the father didn't even wake the mother up, and he put on his nightgown and some shoes and ran towards the cemetery, where he found his son dug up, his jaw dislocated, and all of his teeth pulled out. Sadly, the grave robbers had already ran off and were not seen again. And the last story is concerning a gengångare ghost who comes back because they can't rest because they're missing something. This is a story about a young girl who got pregnant out of wedlock. So she had to go through an abortion, and like this was many hundred years ago, so you can imagine that they were primitive back then, which resulted in both the young girl and the child not surviving the ordeal. A few days after the funeral, the family started noticing the dead daughter standing outside their window every night, just peering in. She would not come inside, she would just stand there and look in at them, staring every night. This creeped the family out after a while, and they went and asked the local priest to do about it, and they got the answer that next time you see her, just ask if she needs any help, which they did. They went up to her and calmly asked what they could do to help her move on. She told them that she had a box under a floorboard in the house where she had kept some baby clothing, and she couldn't find rest until she got them. So the family looked for the clothing, found them, and went to her grave and dug a little hole over her grave, put the box with the clothing and buried it on top of her grave. And of course that helped, and her spirit did not show up to peer into their window again. So yeah, that's it about gengångare or ghosts. Now moving on to Draug, or Revenants, Walking Dead, Likspöke, which translates into corpse ghost. These are reanimated dead bodies, like old-timey zombies. These were very dangerous, very dangerous. Not at all like the previous gengångare we were talking about. Very dangerous, could also be of both genders. So what did the Draug look like? They would not be recognized by their loved ones. They would be a dark, swollen corpse, like black or blue. Sometimes there would be some skeleton incorporated in that. They would be unhumanly strong and usually a lot bigger, larger than they were in life. So they became like superhuman zombie ghosts. Yeah, that's the Draug for you. So who would become a Draug? Revenant, Likspöke, corpse, ghost, all that. If you were an extremely mean person, evil, during life, chances were that you would reanimate and come back to life out of pure spite and anger. That was like usually the case. And yeah, you just kept on being a very mean and terrible person after death. It was that evil entity in you that would forcefully take you up and make you into a Draug. If you happen to run into a Draug, there were not so many ways to protect yourself because of its superhuman strength and its size. But if you managed, you could stick a sword into gastkotan, which was the bone thing like closest to your skull behind there. I'm gonna have to Google what that is in English. It was called gastkotan. Anyway, so yeah, you could stick it in there and that would paralyze it. If you had the misfortune of having a Draug jump on your back, the only thing you could do was carry it to a cemetery, a churchyard, and take it to a consecrated ground for some reason. They would at least jump off your back if you did that. The only way to actually kill it would be to first win over. You have to like fight it, and in the fight cut its head off and bury it with the head between its legs, and preferably burn it afterwards too. And if you were lucky, they would not come back. But these were hellishly strong creatures, so you couldn't always depend on all that. If someone who everyone knew was a very evil and mean-spirited person went ahead and died, they would usually have this very menacing look in their eyes, even after death, like in their bed, lying there, like staring, or sitting in a chair, just staring out. You had to avoid their gaze to save your dang life. Like, if those eyes looked at you, you were cursed and the Draug would come after you. So the only way to escape that was to move behind the person and close its eyes from the back so they wouldn't see you. As I told you about the gengångare, the spöken, they would carry them out through the door with their feet first. This was not helpful with the Draug. People would instead make a hole in the wall and carry their corpse out through that to confuse them even more, so they would not find their way home. Because they were a lot more scared of them for very good reason. A short story about a Draug. There was once this very, very mean, evil farmer who loved to torture and berate and just be the meanest man he could be towards his staff at his farm. Like his farmhands and maids and all that. Everyone was very, very scared of him. Even his wife was heckin' scared. He wasn't a good person in any sense of the word. Any sense of the word. So when he got sick and old, he told his wife that she had to bury him standing under their front door with his eyes out towards the farm. He said that she had to do this so that he could keep an eye on his property even after death. The wife was way too scared to not listen to his demands, so when he finally passed, she did as told. Not a very, very good idea. He came back, of course. After this, all the cattle started dying, some workers started dying, sickness spread everywhere. People started suspecting that something was not great. So they dug up his body and saw that he was very rosy and well preserved, even though very bloated and scary looking. So they of course dug him up and cut his head off, put him on a fire and burned him. This didn't stop all the sickness and death though, so it ended with everyone just leaving the farm and moving far away, far away, because this farmer's spirit was just way too evil to even burn away, I guess. So yeah, I think I read somewhere that you should just never bury an evil person standing or sitting, because that's a sure way to get yourself a revenant, a Draug, a Walking Dead, angry, ghosty person after you. Don't do it. So yeah, that was this little video about ghosts and draugs. Thank you so much, my dear, greatly appreciated friend, for getting me this coffin leatherboard from my wish list. It's amazing, and all my videos from here on out will be like a gazillion times cooler. Thanks. Either way, thanks everyone. Like, please comment, let me know what you thought about the video. And put the little bell so you can see next time I upload. And then we'll end with thanking all my dear Patreons. And you're coming up here. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. You're all amazing, and it's thanks to you that I'm able to do so much with my channel, and also just helping me with life in general. You're the greatest. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hope you enjoyed the extra content I post there, and big kisses to you, and hugs and kisses and hearts to everyone here. You're amazing. Stay hydrated, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.